You're listening to Brainwork Framework, a business and marketing podcast, brought to you by focus-biz.com.
Behind every entrepreneur is a story, and within every story is the power to shape and move the world. According to my next guest, stories should not only be heard, they should be felt. Success hinges not only in your ability to inspire, but to connect. Our guest today is Jarie Bolander, a seasoned marketer and visionary entrepreneur. He's the mastermind behind some of the best-selling books coming out soon, like Ride or Die, 7 PR Secrets All Founders Should Know, and Story Driven Decks. And as if that wasn't impressive enough, he's also the charismatic host of the Entrepreneur Ethos podcast. Imagine this. What if you could double your email response rates and triple your success in upcoming meetings? How would that transform your business? Well, today we're diving deep into Jarie's remarkable journey, where he's going to share his insights, experiences, and strategies that can revolutionize your approach to entrepreneurship. Jarie, thanks so much for joining us today. How are you?
Great. I don't know if I could live up to that intro. That's a great intro.
Hey, thanks so much. Courtesy of myself and ChatGPT, man.
Isn't it amazing how good some of that stuff is? I use it, I think probably use it every day for research and other things,
Yeah.
And I'm just learning more and more about how the power of it being this sort of kind of your assistant that helps you. But the thing I've also realized is that you need to know what you're doing and you need to know what good is.
Yes.
You could get really screwed up if you don't know what good is. So
yes,
I'm encouraged that you and I will always have a job. So
absolutely. When it first came,
someone's going to need to drive the boat,
Yes. When it first came out, I got a little bit scared. I had just finished my degree in marketing about a year back, and I was like, oh no, great. The one thing I just was really getting excited for, there goes my job. But again, like you said, there needs to be someone on top of that, someone who knows what good is and has some past experience, because ChatGPT can be like 80 to 90% great. And you need to add those final touches and edit a few things to really polish it up and make it perfect. I think that's what it's all about.
Add the spice, right?
Yeah. A little Salt Bay.
I mean, and so it's like any technological thing. I think the one thing that I found so fascinating about all of this is, I remember when the personal computer first came out, when I was a kid, I was a hacker, quote unquote hacker, and I just remember the excitement, like this is going to change the world. And then it did. And I remember when printers came out, I'm like, oh, no one's ever gonna, buy a book or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. It was just these things, just no one really understands how they're going to be leveraged. And when the internet came out, it was the same thing. Oh my gosh, the world is just so close now, but now with new opportunities come about. And I think same thing with this generative AI stuff. I think as marketers, business people, and entrepreneurs, got to learn to use the tools. But like anything, you can go seriously wrong if you use them wrong.
Yes. I've seen examples where ChatGPT is pulling up fake references, whether you're asking certain questions. So that ability to be a little bit more creative, but it's not entirely factual. And that's something that we need to be mindful of.
Yeah, the whole hallucinations thing. And also, even when it does get it right, the context sometimes is just not like, it doesn't know what you're thinking, so
yes.
I was working on something the other day. I was finding some research. I use it a lot for research because it's really good at like synthesis. And it just got it wrong. Like it went down the rabbit hole in this, like, what is it even thinking? And I'm like, okay,
right.
back up. And so it's just interesting. I think it's an exciting time, but also, with great power comes great responsibility, as they say.
Absolutely. And it's all about how we use the tools, and are we going to use that power for good or evil? And I even said that about marketing in general, is that yes, it can be used for some not very good things, but I would prefer to, stick with the moral high ground and make sure that we're doing things by the book, being honest and transparent, because I think long-term business and long-term brands need to focus on that. If you're short-sighted, if you're just looking for the money, being dishonest, you're not going to create a long-term brand.
No, I mean, storytelling's the same way. I mean, storytelling is one of the most powerful tools on the planet. And the reason is it's stuck in our DNA. I mean, you and I are talking to each other because our ancestors told better stories, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we didn't get eaten by the saber-tooth tiger. Our ancestors got to reproduce. It sounds a little bit cliche and maybe a little bit like simplistic, but the reason that happened was because we understood, hey, the food's there. The saber-tooth tigers don't go over there, and with anything, it's the same thing. You could use it for nefarious means as well. I mean, that's propaganda.
Mm-hmm.
Like, all propaganda is just stories, really good stories. They're mostly believable,
Mm-hmm.
mostly true. You know what I mean? Like adjacency true. Like conspiracy theories are the best example of these things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Talk about crazy stories, which they are,
Mm-hmm.
but are they really true? Yeah, I think there's an Irish proverb that says, "Don't let the truth get in the way of a good story." So, but in marketing, I think we obviously need to tell the truth in business as well. So,
yeah, you're like, hey, don't focus on the facts and the truth over here. Just enjoy the story. Let your mind kind of just wander off with wherever it's going. But it's very true.
Exactly. Yeah, it's amazing, and I think one of the reasons I'm so drawn to it, and for a lot of different reasons, and why I sort of dedicated, the latter part of my career to, moving forward to just trying to tell better stories and helping brands and other companies just, get the message out. I mean, there's so much out there in the world that you could get lost in the noise, as they say. And best way to combat that is tell a better story. So.
Absolutely. And that's something that even I struggle with over, the last, 8 to 9 years of being in business and having to craft a message in order to connect with an audience, in order to communicate your offer, what it is you're doing, how it's going to benefit them, and convince them to take the next step. That's a challenge. It can be difficult, and you have to do some testing and playing around, but I'm sure there's more of a set foundation or a strategy behind storytelling. Do you mind sharing what some of that thought process would be and how we could become better storytellers ourselves?
Yeah, sure. So no surprise, all stories are formulaic, although they're not really, you can't just like cut and paste, although some people try to do that, like ChatGPT will do that. But the general classic structure of a story is the 3-act structure, right? A beginning, a middle, and an end.
Okay.
No surprise, right?
I heard of that one.
I've heard of that one, yeah. A couple other ones, the hero's journey, if you're a Star Wars fan and you saw the first Star Wars, classic hero's journey arc. In fact, that whole entire story was based on Joseph Campbell's hero's journey, which he wrote about. I think, who was it? Yeah, Lucas is the one who took his class and said, oh, boom, I'm doing this. But, fundamentally, story is about change, and it's about understanding and making sense of the world. And when it comes to persuasive stories, which is what we do in marketing, our job is to persuade someone to recognize our brand or become a lead or whatnot. That's our job, right? We want 2 real jobs in marketing: brand awareness and lead generation, right? And you'll get sales battling over how good those quality leads are, right? Because everyone knows that that's a big challenge. So in terms of storytelling, I think the best sort of structure I've seen is Aristotle, because Aristotle talked about persuasion. He had his persuasion triangle, which had to do with the pathos, the logos, and the ethos. Pathos being the emotional appeal, the logos being the logical steps to get you from point A to point B, and then the ethos being your credibility, right? Like, oh, do you actually know what you're doing? Right? All stories of persuasion have those 3 critical things, generally in that order. And the reason why we always start with emotion is because I have to give a shit. If I don't care about it, I'm not going to, there's no reason to go inundate me with facts and figures and your stupid, silly tool that does blah, 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 until I'm emotionally connected to the problem, true. Right?
Yes.
Right. The problem I face, right? And so as marketers, we really, a lot of times it's hard to do. I should be problem focused. I should be customer centric. When you hear these words, That's hard to do because then you need to know the customer. What are the pain points? What's the emotion? When I sit down, like for what you're doing with Focus Biz, right?
Mhm.
You know, when I look through your website and I'm like, hey, I have this problem. I have so many of these different tools. I have no idea what I'm doing. My problem is I don't know what to do. And you say, hey, we can help you automate and grow your business stuff. I'll show you how. Okay, if I'm interested in that, I'm going to say, oh, tell me more.
Yes. Yes.
But a lot of times, right? And I've done this before, so I'm guilty as charged. It's hard because, again, this is hard to do. What happens is they start with the logos first. They start with this is all the cool stuff I can do. And they what's called bury the lead. Like, why does this matter to me? Oh, I can be 2x more efficient, or I can be 3. Oh, that's what I want first. So
it's like them realizing, why would I want it? Why should I be invested and connected with this? Just like you were describing.
That's super important to realize. It's also important to realize that you have to explain it to a 6th grader, right? I mean, a lot of times people get too technical and they get too, well, it's complicated. Look, if you can't explain it to a 6-year-old and you don't understand it, I don't care how brilliant you are. Or you understand it and can't communicate it. If you can't communicate it, you can't sell it, you can't market it. And everyone's like, well, we have sophisticated customers with MDs, PhDs. I said, that's not the point. The point is they are cognitively overloaded.
Yes.
Right? They're not going to waste their time on your silly thing.
Right.
Because they're busy. You need to break through the noise, and how you break through the noise is with clear, concise, compelling, captivating messaging. That's how you do it. It doesn't matter if they're, a plumber or a brain surgeon. Our brains act exactly the same way when it comes to this. If you're cognitively overloaded, you're going to go with clear, concise, compelling, simple messaging to break through the noise, because I got to get your attention. The B2C people, again, I'm mostly B2B, but and I think so are you, but the business to consumer people nail this. And how they nail it, and everyone is actually a homework assignment for everyone on the phone, if you want to, or on the call, or on the Zoom, or on the, I should say, fax machine. Because now I'm dating how old I am. Here's something that you can do to really understand this and figure out how you can apply it to your business. Some of the best headlines on the planet are written by people that write for women's magazines and tabloids. And if you read it's clickbaity, quote unquote. But like if you ever actually go to the supermarket and sit around in the checkout, just look at the headlines. What draws your eye to it? Now you may say, well, that seems a little bit simplistic. Yeah, it's a lizard brain simplistic, because I have to get your attention, because your attention is more and more valuable as days go on. I mean, especially with ChatGPT, right? Now I can just generate all sorts of crap. Exactly, right?
Just overloaded, yes.
Overloaded, right? So that's one thing to just think about. Like, when you are thinking about your business, what's the emotional appeal? How can I get someone, and I always tell this all the time, like, how can I get someone to say, tell me more. Tell me more. That is not a 5-minute diatribe. That's a 10-second elevator pitch that someone's like, oh, interesting. Yeah, tell me more about that. That's what you want. That's now they're hooked. They are connected to you. I mean, this is the classic elevator pitch. This is the classic big idea. This is all those things. And, you mentioned those 2 books, or one of them, Story Driven Decks and Story Driven Outreach, that I've written about this. The reason why you can get 2x more response on your cold emails and 3x more meetings is the simple fact of you are allowing them to ask you, oh, tell me more, in a thoughtful way.
Wow. And that's something that I've struggled with personally, is really creating this story that gets people to take that next step. And I think more concisely what you said, tell me more.
Yeah.
You need to capture them so early on. And I have done this myself where I focus too much on the features and here's what it can do.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, it's the cognitive overload where they're just pushed with so much information that they are no longer connected. They're just like, okay, this is a lot for me. It's time to kind of move on. What's next for me? Who else is going to help me?
Yeah. Like as an example, like just looking at your website, you know, I'm just not to be evil.
Please do. Please do.
Okay. So above the fold, right? Design and automate, connect and sell. Okay. Marketing evolved. All right. I sort of know what that is, but I don't really know what that is. Right. Then I scroll down and I think one thing that really struck me is creative solutions for connecting and selling. So for me, if I'm interested in that, I'm like, oh, hey, that's pretty interesting. Now, you may want to expand that a little bit more, but as an example, if you were sending me a cold email and you said, hey, Jarie, are you interested in connecting with your customers and selling more to them? Well, it could be just as simple as automating some of your processes. I'd love to set up a time to chat, or if you don't have the time right now, hey, here's this really great tool thing or whatever. Let me know if you're interested. Like that's it. It's not like, here's the list of all the stuff I do. It's more the opportunity. One, you've respected my time. Two, you're pulling at the hearts. Like, I have this problem. Yeah, I'm going to talk to Chris about it. So again, like this is the thing that I've always seen. You have everything there. It's just in the wrong order.
Yes. And like I said, those are the things that I've struggled with. I always kind of think of a story as this kind of longer form build up. You have to hit certain points. And I was like, is there any just things that are a little bit shorter, a little more concise that can tell the entire story, like that 10-second elevator pitch? I always feel like I want to cram so much information thinking that it's going to be valuable for someone. But I realized
I think
it's not.
No. And what's interesting about story is that it's nested. It has a nested structure. So you have the acts, act 1, act 2, act 3. You've got scenes within acts. So there may be 3 or 4 scenes within an act. And then you've got beats, which are make scenes up. And then you can kind of chop it down into these. It's almost like those Russian dolls, those nested Russian dolls.
Yes.
So if you're a story nerd and you like write a lot of stuff like I do, you've got a scene, which could be, if you're reading a book, let's say you're writing a chapter of a book, right? Typical chapter in a book, again, depending on the author, but the ones that sort of are quick to read, those Harlequin romances or those love stories, those are typically, 1,400 to 1,800 words, roughly. Right. Okay. So they're about that. Right. Now, within that chapter, right, there's going to be scenes. You're going to break those scenes down. Typically, again, it depends on the book and depends on things. It could be a couple of scenes. The chapter could be its own scene, etc. But within each scene, in a scene, again, let's just go thirds. So you've got act 1, act 2, act 3. Within each act, you've got maybe 3 chapters. Within each chapter, you've got 3 scenes. Within each 3 scenes, you've got beats. So we're talking about an atomic level in terms of words, a couple of hundred words for a beat. That beat has to have the same beginning, middle, end. It has to have the same change. So if you look at it from a holistic point of view, you've got your entire arc of your business, massive, like, oh my gosh, this whole thing. Well, if you've ever read a great book, the first chapter, first scene, first beat, that's what hooks you in. You literally, within the first, couple pages of a book, really understand, I'm going to like this, I'm going to hate this, right? TV show, same thing. Ever watched a really good TV show, like the pilot episode, like Breaking Bad, the pilot episode of Breaking Bad, or Star Wars, or Star Trek? It's like, it sucks you in the first episode.
Yes, that was House of Cards for me, and I love Breaking Bad's too. It was
same, and then you'll sometimes hear, well, it takes some, like, have you ever heard someone say, well, it's really good, but it takes some, you got to commit.
Yes.
Okay. Now, there are some people that will commit to 3 or 4 episodes, right?
Mhm.
I'm not one of them, right? I am like episode 1, first 10 minutes, let's go, right?
Yes.
If you think about it that way for your business, how are you going to get people to watch the next episode? How are you going to get people to continue watching that pilot episode? And again, this is nested down. What you have to understand about the way we think and the way we like want to consume story is, if we're busy, you've got a couple, 10 seconds, 20 seconds. If we're not busy, hey, I'm going to get into it. I love news shows. So I'm, it just, I know, hey, my buddies say it takes time, it takes time. Like,
so you're a little more invested, you're dedicated. Yeah.
Right. And that's going to be directly proportional to how interested you are, or conversely with business, how much pain are you in?
Mm-hmm.
They're the same. Think about it. So I think for me, and what I always like to do is, the good news is most businesses can talk too much about what they do, which is great. Like, it's always better to have too much than too little.
Mm-hmm.
And then what I really like to sit down and think, okay, what's the big idea? What's the core idea? What's your core value? And how can I say that? How can I explain it to a 6th grader? And then how can I communicate that in like 10 seconds or less, and not rushed, just like to invite that tell me more? Because again, like, I want to be respectful of someone's time.
Of course. Absolutely. Yeah. We're kind of just as marketers, but also business owners, we're kind of grasping for everybody's attention. The attention span is getting a little bit shorter and shorter. And we need to make sure that we can really encourage someone to take that next step, to find out some more information. We need to compel them, connect with them within that first 10 seconds. And I think even for like visual advertisements and communication, they say someone will make a decision. They know if they want to learn more within 3 seconds. So I think that should be very eye-opening for a lot of people who are wondering, why aren't people interested in what I'm offering? Is it the offer? Is it how I'm trying to connect with people? Is it the story that's behind that offer? So it's something that you really need to take into consideration in order to make sure that you're creating the best potential for yourself. It may be a great offer, but if you can't communicate that properly, well, it's kind of lost.
Yeah. And it's also, a lot has to do with how much time people are willing to invest. So on average, it may be like 3 seconds, right? But if you're really interested in something and you are really like dedicated to learning about it, you may spend 10 hours on YouTube trying to figure it out. Mm-hmm. You may search and read on someone's website about how they do stuff, because it's that much of a pain to you, or that much you're that interested in it. So in what we want to do is, in general, we want to make it easy for people to engage, and we want them to say, tell me more. Now, the other side of that is, if they're not interested, we want them to not be interested very quickly. Not interested in this, great, move on. I don't want to waste our time.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the reason why having a clear, concise, and compelling kind of big idea, story, elevator pitch, it's to not only respect the prospect's time, but also your time. Why would you want to waste your time going through a like 5-minute diatribe when they're like not interested? You're like, okay.
Right. What is the point of really encouraging people to take that next step if they're not the right fit for you? So I think that's important too, just like you stated, is that you definitely want to pre-qualify people as they come through, because their time is valuable, your time is valuable. So let's not waste our resources here, and make sure that we're all getting what we want.
Right. I'll give you an example again I'm picking on you because
please.
Looking at yourself. Yeah. So you're above the fold, right? Is design and automate, connect and sell, marketing, evolve. And then right below that is, in these little tiny letters, is automate workflows, connect with leads, sell more services. Now, that's what I want to do. That's probably the problem I have. But it's small. It's not, you've told me the how I do what I want, right?
Uh-huh.
So again, you have all of it here. It's just I have to read for it. I have to know what that means, right? So one of the things that I always like to tell people, which is really important, is what's the problem? Like the first thing anyone, when they come to your site, is what problem do I solve for a customer? For you, it's automate workflows, connect with leads, sell more services to grow more revenue. I mean, that's what it is. It's like you're a growth, using marketing to grow, right?
Yes.
I need to resonate with that. Like, this is why winter.com, Pep Laya's company on messaging, like it's so powerful. And you look at his stuff, it's like, oh, you help me with my messaging so I can sell more stuff. Because most businesses in general, I could say with 100% certainty, want to grow revenue and make more money. That's why they're, especially B2B, right?
Yep.
You're a nonprofit or whatever, but generally I could say with pretty high certainty, I'm a business, I want to grow and make more money.
Yeah.
And I want to do it in a responsible way, but generally I need growth, right? That's my shtick, right? So if I'm looking to grow and automate, right? And I look at the focus business, it's like, okay, that's what they do. Now I can move on. I don't have to like scroll through, right? Now, again, you may just think, well, I want them to engage. And yeah, but you want the right people to engage. You want to make it so Sesame Street simple what you do that when they actually contact you, they're qualified.
Yes, absolutely. You're just pre-qualifying it and warming up those leads. And Jarie, I do not mind that you are taking a personalized look at my own website, because one, I understand my own shortcomings and how I can always want to improve myself. But two, people usually got to pay thousands of dollars for this personalized consult. This is incredible.
True. I'm a high-priced consultant, my day job. So
I was just going to ask, do you offer these either as freelancer or as a business? What can you offer to people who might be interested that are connecting with you already?
Yeah, I mean, that's why I wrote the 2 books, Story-Driven Outreach and Story-Driven Decks. I'm actually working on a class right now called Mastering Story-Driven B2B Marketing, which is taking forever to do, but that's the way quality sometimes takes time. And I'm just working through it. And a lot of these things, what I'm trying to really understand and get more feedback on is this story-driven methodology, which I've been using for the last 7-8 years, right? Even my day job, where I'm a head of strategy over at Decision Council, which is a growth sales and marketing, B2B sales and marketing growth firm. Like, I literally do this every day. Like, my job is to figure out how to grow companies that are either mishmashed together through various things or have built so many products that are so disjointed that they don't kind of like understand that, like, the core gets lost in the mess, right?
Yes.
Like, there's not a company on the planet that cannot tell me exactly the features and functions I should buy, but they can never tell me why I should pick them. Tell me why. What do you mean? We have the best tool. No. Tell me why I should pick you to solve my problem.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, because we integrate with Salesforce. No. Why? Why do I care? Right?
Yeah.
And so, as an example, again, I'll pick on you again.
Please do.
Why not?
Please do.
Because one, you're a good sport, and two, like, you got mostly all of it there, right?
Yeah.
One of the things you have as you go down the fold, it says struggle to do it all. We help businesses design, automate, connect, and sell. Okay, so the whole struggling to do it all, okay, that's a powerful thing. Like, if I'm a small business person, I have to wear a lot of hats. So there's one piece of it that I could up level, right? As an example, you could ask the question, are you struggling to automate workflows, connect with leads, and sell more services to grow your business? ? If so, I can help. And here's how. Boom, 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 right? Because again, if that's my problem, then I want to talk to you. If that's not my problem, then I don't want to talk to you. Right?
That's brilliant.
Well, I do this for living.
I love it. This is just
hopefully I should know what I'm doing.
That's
but
great.
But the thing is, but the nice thing about what you've done, honestly, by the way, is that you have a tool, you have a bunch of tools, right? And more often than not, people lead with all the tools. Now, that's fine if I'm already down the path where I'm like, now I got my technical team or my 3-4 level down person going, okay, can we work with these guys? Go figure out if this works. This is the thing about B2B that's different than B2C. B2B is a buying committee. It goes all the way from the CEO to the tech in the back room trying to figure out how to like plug the cord in, right?
Yeah.
It depending on the tool, right? Cybersecurity tools are like any tool that B2B is there's going to be more than one or two people that are going to have to be involved. Even if you're a CEO or sole proprietor, someone's got to set this stuff up, right? Like the bigger the company, the more people. So what a lot of people think is that, oh, I'm selling to the IT person, I'm selling to the marketer or whatever, right? And in one sense you are, but you're also selling to the people that write the check, which is CFO, CEO. So the way this has to work is, what is the least common denominator that all of them care about, right? Because they're making a decision. Every single one up and down the tree is making the decision. So the story has to resonate with all of them. Now, that's scary.
I was just, that seems like a challenge.
It is, but the thing I always like to think about is, if you're a C-level or an owner of business, right? I always like to say, I need 3 bullet points in a pretty picture, or I'm lost. And it's not that they're dumb. If they're distracted and busy, why do they need 3 bullet points in a pretty graph, pretty picture, right? So they can make a decision within the next 20 seconds of this meeting to say, you know what? I need Jim to look at this. Hey, Jim, go dig in. Right? Now, if that's Jim is that level, now the next level is, okay, what detail does like the VP need or the director? And then what detail does the manager or the individual contributor need? They all have the same goal. They just need different levels of detail. Most companies start with the lowest level of detail that's the most expansive. They don't start at the top and work their way down. That message resonates with everyone. Every single person in the entire company would resonate with automating workflows, connecting with leads, and selling more services. That's because they get paid more efficient, whatever, right? And if they're overwhelmed, hey, I'm struggling to do all this, I need some help. And the CEO needs to have visibility in his organization, needs to make sure that all his people are efficient. The VP or director, whose job is that vertical, in this case, sales and marketing or whatever, his boss is like, where are the leads? Why aren't you growing, right? Where's the revenue? The marketer or whatever is like, how do I do these campaigns? How do I make sure attribution? Like you start to see you start to see the problem. Most people know the details. They can't bubble it up to the overall strategy. And that's where it gets lost. So I always like to think from the top down and then go from the bottom up to see the continuum, right? But I always start with the top. What's the message that every single person in this organization can resonate with? Again, explain it to a 6th grader, right? What do I do?
That's brilliant, because the decision makers and the journey that they go on to decide, is this going to be the right fit for us? Is this what we want? Takes that reverse order from that top down, starts with them and goes up the ladder. Is this something that we should be worried about? And for myself, I just started getting into more B2B as that focus within the last couple of years, whereas the last 9 years I was focused on B2C. And it's a different ball game. It's very similar, but it's noticeably different for me. And I think some of those differences can kind of throw us for a loop, even for myself. And I think getting a more clear and concise message and reordering some things in order to connect with people a little bit better, like you said, is going to pre-qualify people and get you to work with the right individuals if they want to work with you. Yeah.
And you have this other thing called be genuine, be authentic, be transparent, right? So in creative solutions for connecting and selling, you interviewed someone recently that was talking about automation and ChatGPT, and he's basically he was the guy, he had worked at like Activision, and now I don't remember his name off the top of my head.
Yeah.
And what did he said something that was really powerful. He's like, The best selling is like one-on-one. Like it's a personal relationship, and it's a relationship that's sustainable. You just can't spray and pray. And that's part of the reason why a lot of these automated tools and et cetera don't get the results people want, depending on the sale, right? You could argue that in the B2C world, since it's mostly emotional, that performance marketing works. If it's a $20 thing, I'm emotionally going to buy it. I'm just going to buy it as retail therapy, and it shows up, and it's like, right, you're right. You know what I mean? And there's a bunch of triggers that matter. As the sale gets higher and higher, $1,000, $2,000, you're buying a car, or B2B, where you're at, average contract value or annual contract value is $50K, $100K, gets a little more complex. Right?
It does.
Because that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And someone's going to get fired if it doesn't work. That's the other thing to realize, right? But his point was just spot on, because there are benefits to mass messaging, mass storytelling. There's a great book called Red, R-E-D, and it was written by the guys at Yum Brand. And it talks about how they grew Taco Bell, Kentucky Fried Chicken, And you would say, Jarie, these are consumer brands. Selling chicken's different than selling SaaS. Actually, no. And the reason why it's no is they're just different levels of storytelling. And they're different levels of market size with longer sales cycles, right? But fundamentally in our brains, we buy from people we trust and we're aware of. And brand building, which is marketing's job, right, is to lay down the framework and the groundwork and the air cover to be know, like, and trusted. So when there's a sales opportunity, sales can come in, and not necessarily, you're not selling them, you are helping them pick the right solution for them.
Yes, because they already want to buy. The sales doesn't need to really encourage that. You're just, hey, let's build that relationship, build that trust more.
Yeah. And what's interesting is that, the Red book, I don't remember the subtitle, but they had this contrarian view of marketing. They're like, it's all brand building, all of it. 80% of your money should be spent on brand awareness. 20% should be on lead gen, or what we would call lead gen, they would call specific campaigns to get like whatever.
Yeah.
Because the long-term growth of a company is about brand building, especially in B2B, right? I mean, the statistics are something like 2% of your market's in market to purchase. That means the rest of the 98% are sitting around doing, like, your performance marketing ain't doing jack for them. But your brand building, your storytelling, your thoughtfulness, your, gosh, I really like this Chris guy. He just seems to know what he's talking about. If you're top of mind, then they're going to be like, I'm going to give him a shot. And this is where the performance marketing folks just fail, like tremendously, because they just don't understand that you just can't do, now in the before times, before 2019, maybe that might have worked. But fundamentally, it always comes back to the fundamentals. What's the fundamentals? The fundamentals, people buy from people they trust. Trust is built over a long period of time. Main job of marketing is brand awareness and lead generation. That brand awareness is your long-term trust over time. It sounds simple, but it's really hard to do.
It's so important, because just as you mentioned, it's the 98 out of 100 people, they're not ready to buy. And you could convert them later, 10, 12, 18 months, but they need that time because they're not interested right now. If you're going to bother putting this package together, this offer, creating this story, connecting with people, and you're getting 2 sales out of every 100, do you want to toss away the other 98? No, you don't. You want to try and build that relationship over time so that when they are ready to purchase, you are top of mind. You've already built that like, know, and trust with them. So I think that's so important. That brand awareness, I think, can really give people just a new perspective on how they look at their outreach strategy and their storytelling. And I think something you mentioned before was that disconnect between sales and marketing. when marketing says, hey, we've got someone warmed up, they're ready to go, they're interested, and it gets handed over to sales, what's missing there? Why is there that disconnect, or is something missing within the sales and marketing side that they're not on the same team? It feels like they're playing on a different field.
Yeah, there's not alignment between them, and there's not the realization. Again, this is a contrarian view too, that marketing works for sales. And people complain about this constantly, and I find you can complain, but who's marketing's customer? Sales. Like, sales needs collateral and leads to close. That's marketing's job. I mean, this is the classic RevOps problem. A lot of the new buzzword bingo for the last couple of years. RevOps is sales, marketing, and customer support, but not in the traditional strategic sense, but in the actual implementation tactical sense.
Okay.
Because the three of them working closely together is unstoppable, right? You've got the marketing folks that are generating quality leads. You got the salespeople closing the quality leads, and then you got the customer support people onboarding them and making them successful. It's a virtuous cycle. If they're all three aligned, it's awesome. Now, that doesn't mean you create RevOps as its own little, thing. You just have to, and like reporting to like the chief revenue officer or whatever. There's always sorts of problems on there. They have to be independent, but they have to be connected. This is similar, like if you look at a military analogy, you got the grunts on the ground and you got the Air Force flying air cover, right? The grunts on the ground got to call the guy to bomb whoever, right? The ship or whatever. Like, they have to be coordinated, but they have separate jobs. They have separate goals, which is key, right? So the disconnect seems to be marketing doesn't understand that they work for sales. And then sales really doesn't quite understand that they need to tell marketing what's a quality lead. And I think once you get that alignment, then it's magic, because the last thing you want to do as a marketer is send a crappy lead to sales, because then they're going to be upset at you. Two, it's not going to be like what their job is. So I always think of, it's funny, again, another military analogy.
Yeah.
I always think of sales as like the grunt, NCO, grizzled NCO who's seen it all, like just seen it all, right? And I think of marketing is the brand new buck lieutenant who just swaps in. It's got a market, it's got a degree.
He's got a plan.
School. He's got a plan, right? It's got a plan.
Sales are the grunts on the ground, and they're calling in, this is what we need, this is what we want. Yeah. And they're just like coming in, all right, this is us.
I've got the shiny bars on my thing. I know what I'm doing. I went to college, right? I mean, which is fine. But see, this is the thing that the grunt, right, doesn't understand. What's the strategy? What's the intent about far up? That's marketing. Marketing. So I always think of marketing as they're the strategy. How are we going to go? They're the ones that come up with the plan on how we're going to attack the market, for lack of a better word. Sales, and some of obviously marketing campaigns, but sales is the grunt on the ground. Like, they're the ones that are butting heads with people, trying to get them to buy stuff. Hardest job ever. Getting someone to part with their money. I mean, maybe brain surgery is a little harder, but you sort of don't have a choice if you got a brain tumor, right? So I always think sales, tactical, the tacticians, the tactics, they're the ones that know what works. Marketing's the strategist. They see the bigger picture a little bit more, and they're trying to figure out how to navigate, where do I put sales, what region, what messaging, what ammunition do I give them in order to, what's the goal? The goal is sales. That's the reason why generally everyone works for sales. Everyone works to sell stuff. Dev, ops, the CEO. No sales, no company. So, I mean, I know, contrarian, but even, product, dev, work for sales too. They just don't know it. And they get all pissed off because they're like, what do these guys really know? Now, problem with tacticians is they only see the wood in front of them, right? They only chop the wood in front of them. Like, look, I got a pile of wood. They don't see there's 50 more piles, or they don't see the bigger picture. Now, I'm being simplistic, but generally the salesperson is focused on this quarter and next quarter because they have to meet their numbers. They get paid on commission. They've got to make 50 calls today, 100 calls. They are the tacticians, like their job. That's where every strategy, every marketing strategy the rubber hits the road. Where it really is, does this work or not work? Did it generate a sale? Did it generate sales? If not, it doesn't work. I don't care, again, what kind of marketing degree you have, what kind of data you have, what's the open rate, the click rate, the blah, blah, blah. If the demo to buying my thing doesn't work, that doesn't work. Fix that. And that's marketing's job to a first order, marketing and dev. But again, tip of the spear. Who's the one that's the lifeblood of a company? Is sales. Revenue in the door, right? Those operations, you got to make sure you're efficient, but no sales, no company. Therefore, we all work for sales.
Wow. It's funny because I've been in sales and have also worked for sales, and I never really looked at it the way that you just described it, but it makes so much sense. And I would hate to give the salespeople that feeling that, all right, yeah, they were right all along.
Well, they are in one sense, they do, but that's a short-term deal, right?
Yes.
They're only they can't, their sphere is literally like what's in front of me. How am I going to make the quarter? Because that's what, again, they get paid.
Yes.
Right. So they are mostly focused on short-term. Again, this is general. Don't like hate on me for saying this, but you have to make these generalities and have these heuristics and these mental models so that you kind of understand how the whole thing works.
Yes.
Generally, they're short-term focused. Marketing needs to be long-term focused because marketing is setting up that pipeline that they're going to have to go close in 2, 3, 4 quarters. They're the ones setting up the air cover so that when those 2%, the next 2% are in market, you're top of mind. So when they give them a call. So it's a coordinated dance. Generally, marketing is more strategic and long-term. Sales is more tactical, short-term. Doesn't mean there's not overlap. I mean, the grunt on the ground needs to know the reason I'm taking that hill is so I can take the city that's 20 miles up. Don't get me wrong. It's like, you need to understand that. But when the job is to chop the wood in front of you, or that guy's shooting at me, I need to shoot him first, or I got 20 more calls to make. That's going to get me 5 more sales. It's tactical in nature. And so I think the tension is always, at least what I've seen, is how do we as marketers give the sales team the tools, techniques, the air cover, the literal wood behind the arrow, so that when they go out and talk to prospects and customers, like it makes their job easier. Because the faster someone can sell, the better they can sell. The easier it is for them to sell, the more they're going to sell, the better everyone is. I'm telling you, you never want a revenue problem.
No.
You never want a revenue problem, ever.
It is the lifeblood of any company. This is what drives your growth and keeps you sustainable. It's just that's cold hard truth. Yeah.
And I think what pulls that alignment together, what lines everyone, is that cohesive story. Getting back to that, clear, concise, compelling story converts. Not only converts prospects that you're trying to get to be customers, it converts your team. If you've ever worked at a company where it had a muddled message that no one really knew what the hell was going on, you're like, I don't know who's doing what. That's a lack of alignment. When you're not aligned, everything's harder. When everything's harder, growth slows. It's just like entropy, like it's just chaos. Like it takes more, right?
Right, because the team isn't working towards this unified goal. They don't know what's going on.
No. If your team is unified among a common story that's clear, concise, and compelling, that anyone on your team can say, if everyone believes the story, can explain it to a 6-year-old or a 6th grader or your grandmother, and is convinced that this is the right story, then they will do the right thing. They will do their job. They will make sure, okay, I am aligned to where I'm going. That's why culture is such an important thing. That's why narrative and communicate. That's why the job of the CEO is basically the grand communicator. Is just their job is to just make sure that everyone understands where they're going. That's it,
Right.
and raising money, right? But
Right.
like it's a hard job because if you got 1,000 people trying to imagine trying to align 1,000 people among a common narrative. Like that's hard.
It's a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So now with everything that you've kind of shared from your past experience and what you have coming forward, is there any other advice that you'd love to share with entrepreneurs? I mean, we've kind of gone through crafting that short, compelling, concise message. A lot of great tips in here as well. Is there anything else that you want to share with them?
I mean, if you're new on the journey, you're thinking, this is entrepreneurship, right? For me, I see all these cool people that are crushing it, did my best year growing 25% month over month. I mean, it's not always sunny in startup land. It's not always rainbows and unicorns. Most of the time it's a slog, for lack of a better word. You have to love what you're doing. And I think a lot of young folk, like they're in it for the wrong reason, You truly have to be in it for the joy of doing it. It's like playing sports. Like I love the game. You just got to love the game. Yeah, I want to win and I'm dedicated to winning. And you hear all these people, the champion mindset is I hate to lose. Every champion still loses. Michael Jordan playing a game at the highest level and they still lost, which means that you as an entrepreneur will lose, but just don't quit. Quitting is the ultimate in not being successful. And what may happen is you may not be doing what you thought you'd be doing. You may say Gonzaga and you're like, that didn't work. Because this is such a hard thing to get right. Because you are battling against forces that do not want you to succeed. They want to crush you because they don't understand you. The status quo is a very powerful thing. I'm telling you, you may not have believed Crazy Uncle Jarie, but Crazy Uncle Jarie has got reason he's got gray in the beard is because he's beat his head on this so many times. So make different mistakes than I made, but the one mistake that I hope you don't make is this is not an overnight success game. This is, I love the game. And I'm going to play the game even if I have setbacks and even if I lose. But, I've done 6 companies, 7 probably. I can't even lose track. They were not all successful. Okay. They were not all successful, but I love the game. So love the game and try to help people along the way too. I think this community of entrepreneurs is really powerful. I've never met an entrepreneur that hasn't been willing to help, and love the game.
Isn't that
do
so
the best
cool?
you can.
Just that community of entrepreneurs wanting to help each other out back in sales and, just other areas of life. Things can be a little cutthroat. Everyone's trying to get ahead and they feel like they have to step on others in order to elevate themselves. When in reality, what if we built a staircase together? What if we shared some advice that something I went through, you don't have to go through it anymore. And you can actually lift each other up in that sense. And I think that's so important. I've also found that with other entrepreneurs as a whole within just any community. You go there, you ask, you help each other out and lift each other up.
100%. I think that's very well said. Very well said.
Man, so many good tips and tricks. I hope everyone who is listening really is able to take this away. And I want people to go ahead and start recrafting their offer, their website, because I'm going to start doing that off of Jarie's advice here. Where can people connect with you and learn more about you, Jarie?
Well, there's jariebolander.com, which I had to do because my publicist suggested I do that. I didn't want to be that guy, but I'm now that guy. So that's where all my books and stuff. You mentioned getstorydriven.com, which is sort of something I'm kind of doing on the side as sort of my contribution to the world of entrepreneurship and storytelling. So that's just got a bunch of the books and things that I'm working on. So those are 2 great places. I'm on LinkedIn all the time, so that's a good place. So just feel free to connect. I think, like you said, Chris, this is a hard enough gig by yourself. it's better to come together and help each other out, which a lot of people do. So that's what's so beautiful about it.
Absolutely. Entrepreneurship can get very lonely and we're just kind of stuck inside of our box. We're just busy with the day to day and it can get lonely. But I found that just connecting with other entrepreneurs, having a quick chat conversation, connecting with each other, it's uplifting. It's invigorating. It's like, wow, other people are going through a similar situation. Everything isn't just the sunshine and rainbows. That was kind of the picture painted for a lot of people. It's a lot of hard work. There's going to be some struggle. But I think something that I heard in the past was choose your hard. Entrepreneurship is hard, business is hard. Getting up, doing it every day can be very hard. But what's also very hard is not having enough money to fill up your gas tank, or what bill can I pay this week in order to, kind of push that next one ahead. Life is hard. Choose your hard. Entrepreneurship is hard, but if you stick with it, like you said, if you love the game and what you're doing, it's just going to keep you motivated to find that end result. Jarie, thank you so much. Hope you have a great rest of your day and continue keeping up the great work, man. Love to see it.
Appreciate it. You too. I'm more than happy to help you on your messaging now that I smashed you on your own show.
I love it. Please do, man. Please do. I
feel bad and then I don't feel bad.
You are literally, okay, it's going to sting a little bit. It's going to hurt a little bit. But honestly, you're going to feel so much better down the road. I don't mind. But honestly, people need to hear that in order to improve. And that's what I'm all about.
100%.
Thank you, Jarie. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.